The gospel message should be something to you that has if you are truly saved, that is like just truly beckon to you and just like cause you to want to like weep over your sin, but jump for joy that God is imparting these things. So the creator of the universe and everything around us, and that just like it should fill you with love, not condemnation. I do believe that the Lord like came to me and he started like opening my eyes to like the truths of the gospel. I truly wanted to know, like, why is it that this is different? Like, why is this different to me? Like, why does this seem like this isn't the same Bible thumping sermons I've been to as a kid, growing up at Baptist church? That's what I love about our music, is that our music has always strived to find different and unique ways to share the gospel in a way that seems more relatable and more real to people. I'm sure you'll get a couple goofs in here somewhere,
I'm hoping so.
Maybe throw them in there for comedic relief,
Nice one.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome in. My name is Chris and I host the UCB1 Rock Show. I'm really excited for this show today because I get to share with you the full interview that I recently conducted with Nick Detty. He does the heavy vocals for Cedarville, Ohio's very own Wolves at the Gate. Wolves have been going since 2008, making some of the best Christian metalcore that I've ever heard. I absolutely love these guys. I asked Nick to give us a little whistle-stop tour of the history of the band.
So the band actually started in 2008. It was two original members that are still left in the band are Ben and Steve, guitar player and bass player. Steve started the band in college back in 2008 with Ben and with some other guys that they all went to college with here in Ohio in the States. And they just started playing local shows, kind of made a small EP, made a few songs. I came into the mix in 2011, in the summertime. A band that I was playing with, that was like my band that I had created. We opened up for a show, for buddies of mine who were like in a band that were pretty known around the regional area. But they were having their last show because they were breaking up. And Wolves was the direct support to that show. And I had heard it, like I'd never heard of Wolves at the Gate before, but a bunch of my buddies had heard of them. And I asked them about them. They're like, "Oh, dude, you should check these guys out." And it was kind of like a funny moment, because like when Steve was sharing, like at the time, like I didn't profess to be a believer. I grew up in church, I grew up around church and stuff like that. Like I went to church and stuff, but I didn't really like profound, like I did not truly believe that like Christ had opened my eyes. And Steve was sharing the gospel from stage, and like it was kind of funny. The mosh pit was like all like sparsed, you know what I mean? And it was like just me standing in the middle. And I was like making eye contact with Steve like the whole time, like while he was preaching.
Yeah.
And I just like so enthralled by the gospel message, and I just like I had to go up to him later and I said, "Hey man, like can we talk about like what you were sharing on stage? Because like I've never heard anybody share the gospel that way." Or share at the time, like share about God is what my response was. But yeah, I mean, we kind of sat and talked a little bit, and some of the other guys in the band recognized who I was, like just from like watching the first band. It was like, "Dude, you guys were sick," like so yeah. I mean, the rest was kind of history. Like after a couple weeks, he actually contacted me and asked if I'd be interested in playing with them or singing for them, because like we were getting ready to they were getting ready to sign to Solid State in September of 11, and they were like, "Well, we're gonna start like touring and probably doing a bunch of records," and like I mean it's a full-blown thing. And I was like, "Oh well," and I was 18 at the time, so I'm just like, cool, like I don't got anything better to do. No, but it was, I mean, this is what, music had been my passion my whole life. And I had been like singing, like I've been screaming since I was 14. And then like it wasn't until the most recent years that evolved into singing and stuff. But like obviously it just had been my passion, and I'd always known that, and then come to realize like obviously God like had a much bigger purpose for this,
Got a bigger plan for you.
With me and with these guys in the band, and rest is history, man.
That's so
10,
good.
So 10,
good.
oh my gosh, 13 years later. Yeah.
100%, man.
Yeah.
And I totally resonate with what you're saying about Steve and his
Mhm.
gospel kind of presentation, man.
Mm.
I've been just like deep diving into like almost cyber stalking you for the last like week. Just really
Hey,
trying to
all for the glory of Christ, man. If it means that
100%.
if it means you've been praising Jesus, that's all I care about.
100%, man. And
That's
like
awesome.
Steve's like gives like this like really powerful messages when
Mhm.
he's like breaking down his tracks, and he's really really good at like explaining the gospel.
Yeah.
But and then sometimes when we explain the gospel to people, it can obviously come across as it can be quite offensive, but he's just
Yeah.
so humble, and he's very clear to say like
Yeah.
a
That's
sinner like me, this is
Yeah.
I'm
Well, that's why I believe like Christ makes so much emphasis in his like his Sermon on the Mount, like when he talks about the meek will inherit the earth, like
mm,
talking about how like I think one of the applications of this verse is that saying that like the meek are, those who like truly know that like they've been, he
mm,
also says those who have been,
yeah.
forgiven much, love much, and that is a testament to God, to those of God's children that like obviously like I'm not saying any of them don't love him. I'm just saying like those who truly understand like the beauty of the gospel and what it is and how how the Lord has truly saved them, and done all the work, and it's just like that humility there is what beckons us, what calls us like in our like introspectively to like share the gospel with people, not just out of because of necessity or to see your need, like which are all very important things, but just that because it is genuinely good news. Like it is genuinely like yeah, it's just as if you had like, and I'm not trying to downplay the gospel, obviously, like comparatively, like if you had cancer and you just got told that you were cancer free, like it should be that way to you. Like
Yeah.
it should, like the gospel message should be something to you that has if you are truly saved, that is like just truly beckon to you and just like cause you to want to like weep over your sin, but jump for joy that God is imparting these things. So the creator of the universe and everything around us, and that just like it should fill you with love, not condemnation. Like it should fill you with compassion,
Yes.
not judgment. Like
Absolutely.
like that's because like God chose to have compassion on us. He chose not to have judgment, and his judgment is righteous. Like his judgment is fully warranted, because of our sin, but he chose to have a relationship with us, and he chose to like to meet us where we are, and that's the antithesis of how Steve shares the gospel. He shares it in out of compassion and love because he has been shown these many things, and he truly like believes these things because it's like it's real to us, like it's been shown to us, like
So do you credit that moment on stage with Steve kind of talking or preaching the gospel when you were sat there almost in this sparse area of just like
oh yeah, yeah.
Was that the moment that you actually kind of came to the face with
I
it?
I don't think, see, it's crazy because I was listening to a teaching the other day that was talking about like some people say they remember the moment, some people say that they're like I don't know, it kind of was like over time, because everybody's
Mm,
different, which I thought was like a really interesting
mm,
take, but for me it was kind of like over time because there wasn't really a moment. I know that was definitely a moment in my life where like I do believe that the Lord like came to me and he started like opening my eyes to like the truths of the gospel, because like truly I'd not looked at these things the way that like Steve had shared these things, and that's the beauty in like sharing the gospel with people, is that like why it's so important and why um it should be a joy for us as believers to do so, because you may talk to somebody and you may share the gospel with them in a way that they've never heard it before, and not that it takes anything away, from uh, God's doctrine, but it is hitting them, at a moment in time, like me, it hits them at a moment in time where their heart is in a place that God has prepared, the seed among good soil, that God has prepared, to be heard, like to be heard, the gospel to be heard. So yeah, I definitely say that moment was like a good, at least turning point for me, because like I was so enticed. You know what I mean? I was so like kind of obsessed with like the gospel message and like what it meant to like Wolves of the Gates music. You know, I listened
Mm,
to Herald's probably about 100 times within the like next week, you know, because I truly wanted to know like why is it that this is different? Like why is this different to me? Like why does this seem like this isn't the same you know, Bible thumping sermons I've been to as a kid, you know,
mm,
growing up in Baptist church, you know, like or any of those things, you know. So you know, and that's what I love about our music is that our music has always strived to find different and unique ways to share the gospel in a way that seems more relatable and more real to people. And just like how the
mm.
gospel is so intertwined into our daily lives and thoughts and workings essentially.
Hey, this interview was recorded for the UCB1 Rock Show, the only show on national radio in the UK currently playing Christian hard rock and heavy metal. If you'd like to listen in, even if you're not inside the UK, why don't you go down to the first pinned comment or the description? All of the information's right there. It'll tell you how you can tune in. Okay, next up, I wanted to get Nick's thoughts on why he believes maybe we don't share the gospel as often as maybe we should.
I remember hearing, you know, those magicians, Penn and Teller. The one who speaks, he's like a big atheist, but somebody like gave him the gospel once, and I remember him turning around and saying, "How much do most Christians have to hate atheists not to share this gospel with them?" Do you know what I mean? Because his
Yeah.
whole point was like, you know, if you believe this, if you believe that, you know, there is, you know, one God and one mediator between him and man is Jesus Christ, and you know, your sins are, you know, everybody's sinful, and this whole gospel thing. If you believe that, and they've got a whole bunch of people who are just kind of like in the world living in open rebellion to him, how much
Mm.
must you like hate me not to actually share that message with me and just try and like,
Mm.
you know? And I thought that was a really
Mm.
great way of kind of thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know, I think
It's definitely an aggressive take. Like, I mean, but like, I mean, I guess I don't mean aggressive in a bad way. I just
yeah.
mean that like, you know, I could see the mentality of like, this is such a great message, like such a great, uh, you know, like why would you keep this from people? Like,
Yeah, well,
and I praise God that like his eyes were, you know, open to certain, you know, to those certain truths to see the beauty of the gospel for what it is, you know, but, um, you know, you say you're in a vacuum. I would argue that like you have like a great opportunity to keep sharing with people, you know,
mm,
because it is so empty or, you know, godless essentially at that point. Like in
mm,
America, like dude, media is everywhere. You know what I mean? And it is so oversaturated with, and that's what's hard about like the American culture versus the church is that like everybody has a way of sharing the gospel message, and I'm going to tell you right now about 80% of them are wrong because they're bad, like they're bad example, like they think that they are the example and they are not. Like God is
mm.
the example, Christ is the focal point, Christ is the example, and they lose sight of that so quickly, and that our culture is so overshadowed with just false teaching and just very bad messages, you know.
I
So
mean, I think from an outsider's perspective, looking at America,
mhm.
with respect to Christianity,
Yeah.
it does feel very much like you guys intertwine your religion and politics very, very
It's so well,
heavily.
it's because yeah, and it's so disheartening because like a lot of people use that as an advantage tool
Mm.
and it's not like and it shouldn't be like
Yeah. I remember seeing recently Donald Trump. He kind of said, "Oh yeah, I'm a Christian." This interviewer asked him, like,
mhm.
are you a Christian?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm a Christian. I believe that if I'm good, I'll go to heaven, and if I'm bad, I'll go somewhere else." That's the kind of
Yeah,
almost
that's
exactly what.
it's
And I was
obviously
like,
very traditional thinking and not correct at all
and I
with
was like,
any
"Oh,
Christian theology. Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
right, is it?"
No, it's not. And that's what I'm saying is like all these politicians and public figures, like they all
Mm,
use it as a point of contingency to get people to either like their stuff or give them money or whatever. And it's like, Stop the Bleeding is actually a song specifically about like that. It's about, especially when we were in it, this was when the Black Lives Matter movement was going on. And, you know, our
okay.
country was in a very, very painful, very, you know, tough time of great need at that point, I
Sure,
mean,
yeah.
which we always are, but like just there was much chaos ensuing, and Steve wrote a lot about that in that song, just about like the culture around us is just sucking Christians dry because they just like because they feed us lies and they feed us just all of this nonsense that just makes us believe that they have our best interest in mind when they don't. And it's also very specifically to politicians and leaders that claim to be Christians and claim to have faith values, and they don't. They're very selfish. They only seek for their own gain. Like that, they don't care about, God's word or God's message or his love or, and I hope that they do. I hope they actually really do, and they just make very poor decisions. You know what I mean? Like that would that would make me have at least a little bit more compassion, that they're feel like they're in a vice grip, because of the position they're in, not just because they're, sinful creatures like the rest of us, and they just give in to that. And Paul obviously talks very specifically about these things in Romans, so it's just like it's very, very clear, unfortunately for people who don't care and who give in, and choose not to at least acknowledge God and to come to him and to seek forgiveness. Like obviously there's a very clear path for those people, and it will be, the path is narrow, right? Like it's like many will claim, but few will walk it.
100%. And I think that we have, as a society, I say this like kind of all the time, but it kind of feels like we have like a really low view of our own sinfulness. We don't, generally speaking, we just don't see that we are actually sinful. It's particularly when we look at cultural messages, all around us, how, well, just throughout the internet, it seems like the basest, lowest kind of thoughts are just amplified well out of control, and and when people don't really understand, I mean, it's only when you actually make that decision to follow God and then try to just like change your life to conform to the actual teachings of Christ, it's just like, wow, man, I'm super sinful. Do you know what I mean? It's just like,
but it's like it's because of our own pride, man. Pride is the fall. You know what I mean? Like that. Like that's a that's talked about for a reason, is because like our own pride does not want us to believe that we're inherently bad, right? Like we want to believe that we're good people because our pride and our selfish nature like tells us that like, well, we're not that bad. Like we're not like terrible people, I mean,
not
obviously some
to
people,
him,
yeah, right. Well, yeah, I mean, that's, obviously there are many people out there that have, zero moral compass, but any of us that do have a moral compass, like say, well, I don't rape or kill or steal or, or anything, you know what I mean? Like I don't do any of these other things. And it's like, well, yeah, but like Jesus is very specifically talked about like the intentions of your heart, and
absolutely, it's desperately wicked,
about lusting after another woman and all these other things. And it's just like it is crazy at how quick that like our reaction or our innate like decision is to always choose ourselves, because that's our sin, that's what we do, we choose ourselves every time. That's what Paul says in Romans 9, right? Like he talks about those things, or I think 9 or 6. He talks about those things where he says that like we will choose our sin every time, because he says, Lord, why do I do the things that I don't want to do? And then why do I not do the things that I want to do? And it's because like people don't want to believe that they're that bad. They don't want to believe that they're sinful and awful and deserve condemnation. Like they don't want to believe that, because like why would anybody, like that's so terrible, why would anybody tell you that?
No.
Well, a righteous and just God who created you, like that knows you more than the universe itself. Like he created you specifically, like you are essentially, you are a snowflake to him. Like you are like unique, and you are designed in his image. He designed man in his image. Like that's it's crazy, man. And we don't want to live in that reality. We want to live in the reality that's free of consequence and free of any type of indication that like, we can just do whatever we want. And it's like, if it's,
I'm not hurting anyone else, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. It's just me. It's not affecting anybody. Like it doesn't, and that's how we choose to live.
Hey, real quick, if you're having a good time today, please do consider hitting that like button and leaving us a comment. And if you'd like to help more people experience the love of God through alternative Christian music, please consider sharing this video with a friend or maybe dropping it into a social media group of choice. Right, next up, Nick and I continue to discuss how sin affects us all.
I watch like a lot of stuff by Mike Winger. I absolutely love that guy, and he's just so kind of good. And he did this one video where he's just talking about like your heart and how like it becomes like scarred every time you commit a sin. It's like a physical wound on your heart, and then over time that kind of heals a bit, and then you wound it again and wound it again, and all of a sudden it becomes like scarred and calloused, and you just can't feel these things. And you know that when you commit like a sin for the first time, it's just like, oh, you just feel the weight of shame and condemnation. And then after like 100 times, it's just kind of like, meh. You know what I mean? You just don't feel it in the same way, you know? And it's like, and I think that's a lot of what the kind of problem is with the world at the moment, is it's just like when you just don't even recognize sin as sin, and you're just going to live in that anyway, you know, you can't, your heart can't tell you that you know, because it's just been wounded by these kind of offenses, you know, and that's really tough. It's really tough to tell people who just have no sense whatsoever that actually, no, that actually is morally wrong, and you know, you're living in opposition to God.
Well, I mean, those are people who've never been shown otherwise, though. I mean, you would think, or you know, or maybe, I don't know, or maybe they just reject the gospel entirely. I mean, who knows? I mean, because we know, like, everybody knows what's good and what's wrong. Like, this is part of human nature. Like, we know like what is sinful and what is not. Like, this is something God has instilled in us, you know. And when we do something that is not correct, like, we know, we just choose to suppress it. We choose to ignore it. And then when we know the truth, that's why obviously Mark and Paul and Jesus like make such an emphasis on make such an emphasis on like knowing the truth and suppressing it in unrighteousness, is because like that's so much of a bigger deal, is like, you know the truth of the gospel. Like, the gospel has been given to you, like,
it's written on your heart, man. Like,
and you know it in your heart, and you still choose to abandon it. You still choose to reject it. Like, that's why that's worse, is because you knew it was wrong and you did it anyway, you know. So there's like a very hard duality there, but
well, I'm feeling like a really good segue right here to your like last release, the Lost in Translation thing. That was dope. Like, and the first, I don't know if it's the first track, but it was like Heathens by 21 Pilots. You know, all my friends are heathens.
Well, I was gonna say that's kind of an ironic song, because like Tyler and Joseph like obviously wrote that song as like it's like as a loving calling to people to say that, like, hey, like, don't judge the book, you know, don't judge a book by its cover. Like, don't judge, you know, the person next to you just because they look or they act a certain way. Maybe you don't understand their story, you don't understand what they're going through. So like, it is that is, like, I mean, Wolves at the Gate is an ironic name too. You know what I mean? Like, our tagline at, you know, and We Are the Ones was, we are not the wolves at the gate, but the ones who face them.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? So like Wolves at the Gate isn't even really a direct, you know, so, but yeah, man.
That was cool. Sure. Where did the idea come from to do like a whole album of covers? It's
something we really just wanted to do for a long time, you know. Like, it's just something we did the back to school EP, you know, which was like 3 songs of like our like biggest influences like growing up, and a lot of stuff that's fueled a lot of our music. And the you know, Lost in Translation was just kind of like just a lot of songs we felt like that kind of got lost in the mix over the past like 20 years.
Okay.
You know, stuff that come out that like were big hits, or just like really good songs that had some really intense or really good messages. John Bellion's Stupid Deep. I'd never head that song before.
I hadn't heard that one either.
I'd never heard that. John Bellion's actually a big time like top 40 radio like producer for like a lot of top 40 artists over here in America, and I believe he's a believer. I think he's a believer, because like he has like some of the interviews that I've seen with him or stuff like that, and then obviously this song that he made and stuff like that. It's very it's like all paths lead that direction, with him. So like it's very interesting. But yeah,
I hadn't heard
I'm
that
pretty
one
sure
before.
Switchfoot did a cover of that a long time ago.
Right.
He did that just because, like, yeah, it was just another song that we're just like, I love the message of this song. This is a really, really good song. A couple of the other ones were just kind of like creative, like hey, like this song would be cool to kind of do, and yeah, we just kind of picked 12 songs and just kind of went with it.
Mate, it's like you went into my record collection from before I came to the faith and just pulled them all out. Because
we were hoping that would kind of be the, anybody that was listening was just like, oh man, I remember all these songs. Like, yeah, yeah. I mean, because that's what we did. We remembered them and like we were like super excited. So yeah,
I would have gone with Salt, Sweat, Sugar by Jimmy Eat World rather than the Sweetness. But,
well, everybody loves Sweetness. Sweetness is definitely one of the hits. So yeah,
that was a cracking tune. But that Stupid Deep one, when I heard that for the first time, like that message was just great. Like, there's a hole inside my heart that's stupid deep.
Yeah,
and
I'm telling you, man, it's crazy. Like with some of it,
yeah, and like my favorite Wolves at the Gate album is definitely the 5x5 one.
Thanks, man. That's a throwback. That's a throwback. Now what's funny is I think we're coming up on the 10 years, so we're trying to throw in some songs in our Germany set and stuff like that to try to.
Father's Bargain and East to West just blow me away every time, man. Can you just give us a little hint on what we might be able to expect from Wolves of the Gate, kind of? In the near future.
I mean, yeah, like I was saying, we do have new music. It is, I mean, it's kind of rearing towards the like final processes and stuff. So there's not like a whole lot I can share, but I mean, it is coming, and it is coming out this year. So yeah, so here, hopefully within like a couple months, because we're trying to get all that put together. So we started doing a lot of things like DIY just because like the processes were a lot less complicated doing it that way. And we got something more so like what we wanted it to sound like, and we got way more mileage out of like what we wanted essentially in it. And we thought the message was, communicated a lot better, in the way that we're kind of doing things now. Plus it's a lot less travel and a lot less planning. So, with guys, because like in the States, we all live in different states. So we live hours and hours away from each other, so planning can be tough sometimes, but I mean, we're really excited. Like this is definitely, definitely one of the most unique experiences that I think we've created. And definitely one of the heaviest, if you want a hint, because this record is unreal. I'm going to tell you that right now. But we're super excited.
Oh man, that's really, really cool. Well, Nick from Wolves of the Gate, dude, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been awesome. Cheers, man.
Yeah, I'd love to come again, man. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me and Nick today. If you want to find out how you can connect with the band, all of their socials are linked in the description below. As you've got this far, if you've had a good time, please do consider hitting that subscribe button and coming back next time when I'm going to be sitting down with Matt Sassano, and he's going to be telling us all about his struggles with mental illness and physical disabilities and how his faith in the Lord has helped him power through. It's a really great conversation. I look forward to seeing you there. Until next time, look after yourself. Goodbye.